Awkward Insurance. Today, we are diving into the digital deep end to confront those fears and misconceptions swirling around the use of cutting-edge technology in insurance. And I'm kind of ready for this conversation. I had a small conversation with Colleen yesterday. I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so perfect, based on when this episode will be released, heading into kind of a technology season, if you will, where we're going to be recording information and education out of some InsurTech conferences and having some conversations around that. So technology can be scary to some. And to be perfectly honest, I spent some time on social media and talking with colleagues in the industry and everything. And you can hear, they don't say it directly, but you can hear the problems that they are facing can be resolved by technology, but they seem to be so skittish. Like they'll talk about it and then they'll kind of pull back by the end of the conversation. I don't know why it's so scary and why we're having such a hard time struggling to adopt these technologies at a faster pace. We're going at like this incrementally small snail's pace. Ashley, why do you think that agents or agencies are so afraid of adopting technology?
So speaking from personal experience on both the agency side and then also witnessing what agents go through now being at OIA, I feel like the number one answer to that is look at how we struggle with agency management systems. The number one thing that keeps our agency together, if we, and I'm pretty tech forward and I'd like to think I can figure things out. If me as a tech forward person only felt like I was using 20% of our agency management system and felt that it was clunky, that's going to, make me take a little step back and say, well, why do I want to add more on top of this if this is our number one thing that we have to use and we can't figure this out as it is? So that's hurdle number one. Number two, and this is a big one, every conference that you go to, you leave there with a shiny new object. And this is going to be that one thing that fixes my agency. And this is what you absolutely need. And if you don't get it, you're a failure as an agency. And then people get it and they think it's going to be a plug and play and bam, it's magically fixed. But that's not the case. A lot of times either people are overselling, overpromising, and not giving them the product that they thought they were going to have, or they don't make it as realistic. They tell them, oh, it's going to be so easy to just hook up and integrate with all the other things that you have. And then they get there and they're like, well, we have to build this and do that. And they're like, we don't have time for this. We have to write business. So I just think that there's a lot of hurdles, and not with everybody, but with some companies, smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off of that and say, just from my own experience within the agency, that time element is one of the biggest factors. That sure, we can adopt the technology or purchase it or whatever, but I think one place where third-party vendors, if you will, I'm not even going to focus on tech at this moment. Whenever you're integrating something new into the agency, there's this missing component of that team maybe needs to put on some white gloves and sit in that office and help with the integration. Otherwise, it's up to the team that hasn't even built it or seen it or know how it works. And we're going to let it fall flat because we've got work to do. We don't have time. We might dedicate, okay, we're going to get new technology, or we're going to get a new AMS, or we're going to onboard a new carrier or whatever. And we've got maybe 1 week where we can go, okay, for this week, we might focus on getting that together, but that's not near enough time to actually efficiently integrate whatever it is that we are trying to onboard by any means. And so it's that, like, just sit here and act like a part of our team and you integrate it. We'll work. You step in whenever you need to and say, but you could use this or that and plug it in this way. You're the one that needs to make all the systems talk together because that's not going to be on us. Kind of thing. So I think that's one way that technology adoption has kind of flopped. I'm not going to say failed, but flopped. And I'm sure Colleen's just sitting over here like, can I talk? I got things to say. So Colleen is our guest for this conversation today, and she's got all the things to say about stuff like this. I'm not really sure where we're going to go in terms of all this, but let's welcome Colleen to our Awkward Insurance episode today. So thanks so much for being here. I'm excited to have you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's wonderful to be here. So thank you so much for the opportunity. I love this topic. It's, one that you could spend probably a whole podcast just talking about technology and its intersections. So
yeah,
this is a an exciting one to talk through today.
So my great friend Jeff Shee introduced us, and at first I simply wasn't really sure what we were going to talk about, and then you were so adamant to be like, "I got to talk to you before this." Even went over my head to go to Ashley because apparently I was ignoring you, which I didn't mean to. We talked about that. I got so much in my inbox right now. I'm almost to the point of deciding to just delete my entire inbox and start over.
I like that idea.
Right. I do too. I love drawing lines in the sand. I mean, it's so fun, like the actual thing, and it's actually just really fun figuratively as well. But you and I kind
Yeah.
of dove a little deeper, and I kind of understood what your mission was aside from where you're currently sitting and in your insurance career and all of that. But you've got a background in insurance and an even stronger background in marketing. And you have a unique set of skills and deep knowledge that empower others and ignite their engagement, foster their adoption, and drive their utilization to ultimately cultivate a thriving ecosystem in the processes and technology within their agencies and other networks. And so that's kind of really where we're going is like, if, from what I understood in our conversation prior, is that you've just got this passion to be like, listen, let me help you understand what can help you, and we'll work on those processes to get it integrated in everything. So again, welcome to Awkward Insurance. Give us a little bit of your background and kind of explain where you are sitting in the insurance industry right now.
Sure. Again, thank you so much for the opportunity. It's been great. I really enjoyed our conversation yesterday, so I'm super excited today to kind of dive in and have the official conversation on the podcast. But I started my career at an agency in Cleveland, Ohio. So I was the marketing director, for a $13 million agency. And really, that's where I learned, the business and what goes on in an agency from the CSR desk level up to the owners and all the conversations and really a lot of the challenges that you guys were just talking about, how to get things done within an agency and time being such a precious commodity that a lot of, agencies just do not have. I think I was in a unique agency where they did have myself as a marketing person and another person on the team, which is pretty unusual, I think, for a lot of agencies across the board when you're in kind of that market size. So spent some time, again, learning the business within the agency. That business was acquired by a company called Acrisure, which you might be familiar with, a big aggregator in the space. And so was able to move up into that home office and really understand, the position there was really overseeing their 600 plus agencies looking for operational efficiencies, value creation from a marketing communication and growth side. So it was really great to, again, interact with so many different types of agencies, agency owners, their producers, CSRs, account managers, trying to get everybody to row in the same direction. Not everybody even had paddles. So it was just trying to figure out how are we going to do this at scale. So it was a great experience. From there, moved to PCF Insurance and was their head of marketing, just establishing that brand in the marketplace. And then from there, decided to go off on my own with a business partner and form Fideles Advisors. And we really have spent a lot of time advising insurtechs and insurers and investors on how to actually work with the insurance distribution channel. And also the flip side, under helping agents and brokers communicate their needs back to, and insurtechs really, and just having the conversation with insurtechs, like, what problem are you actually trying to solve? Like, that's where we start. And that opens a whole discussion. And sometimes it's not a comfortable one where they say, well, we have this beautiful technology. It has this dashboard. It has unicorns and rainbows that shoot out of it, and it's going to solve all these things. And you go, but have you talked to an agency? Like, that doesn't really actually exist. Like, that's not a problem. You're kind of creating a situation that doesn't actually exist in an agency ecosystem. And so having those types of conversations, and then again, working with agents and brokers to say, okay, how do you select the best technology? How do you have that conversation? How do you dip your toe in and make the choices with so many options that are out there that are right for you? And a lot of the times it's even before you talk about technology, where's your data? Like, where is that at? If it's on Excel spreadsheets, if it's on paper forms, we've got to figure that out before you can even consider any kind of solution. And so that's kind of been my journey and where I sit today. And it's been very fun, exciting ride. It's really great to kind of identify these problems and challenges that everybody's facing and try to work together to find those solutions.
I have to start taking notes because I just thought of like three different things I wanted to ask her, and now I can only remember one of them. I think my first one is a statement. And when you said, where is your data? Not only is where is it, but let's say it's in a good place, like it's in an agency management system, but is it clean? Because I can't tell you how many times there
Yep.
were cell phone numbers in the email spot, which, like, at the time I understood because it was maybe 15 years ago and we had to put a cell phone number somewhere. But so, garbage in, garbage out. That's number one. Number two,
Absolutely.
I love that there's someone out there like you to help be the mediator between both the agent and the technology because I'm just thinking I know a handful of people that have started some insure techs, and a lot of them have been agents in the past, but then if you look at the agencies that they
Hmm.
had in the past, they were huge. They weren't your typical second, third generation agencies that 80% of our constituency is here, that our agency in Scranton, Pennsylvania was. And I think that when they go into it with that mindset of, yeah, everybody wants to grow, but not everybody's going to get to a $13 million agency. So it's great that you came up with this new product, but you're thinking 13 million instead of 5 million. So I think that it's great to have somebody in the middle to be like, listen, Ashley, you're saying that you want this product, but your agency is not ready for this product.
Hmm. Yeah, and again, sometimes a very difficult conversation to have because they want to grow. We need to scale, we need to get to, this high watermark because we have these people depending on it or these kind of self-imposed, deadlines or performance, metric. And it's like you can try to do that, but you're going to do yourself a disservice. And it's going to be that much harder if you try to get to that point with what you have versus taking the time, cleanse your data, make sure it matches where you're looking to go. Right. I mean, if you look at your client profile and you don't have basic policy information or demographic information to segment a list, how are you actually going to use that to get where you want to go? It's going to be a lot of backfilling and retrofitting to try to make it work. And that takes time and it's such a wasted effort because you're not actually going to get to where you want to go. You're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. It just does not work.
But a
Yeah,
round
for
peg in a
sure.
square hole does work.
Yes, it does.
So Ashley just spoke from the agent side. What do you think is the critical component about why tech companies aren't really reaching or hitting the mark when it comes to technology that agencies can use efficiently? Because I've got my thoughts on that. And from what I've just
Mhm.
seen, being involved in some insure tech circles and hearing and talking to agents and seeing what's on the floor at the insure tech conferences, and also having CEOs of companies come up and say, my tech folk, they need to understand insurance a little more, from the National Alliance standpoint in education. I'm like, we got all that. You just have to commit the time to do that. What do you think is the reason why tech companies might be missing the mark on useful technology for insurance agents?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think a big part of it is they miss that insurance is still relationship driven. It's not just the agent to the client, it's the carrier with the agent, it's the agent and the underwriter, it's all the different mouths that are feeding off of the insurance distribution channel. You still have that relationship. You have a relationship as a broker with an underwriter for 20 years and in a hard market go, I need you to do me a solid. I need you to help me place this business. And that doesn't happen if you haven't worked together over years and years and years and been through a lot together. So I think insurtechs, again, come in thinking this technology is either going to replace that relationship or it doesn't even matter because it's just a technology. It's a cog in a wheel that's just going to make things go faster. And that may be true, but how are you going to get into that agency? You need to know the right way to speak to that agent. You speak to that owner. If you're an MGA and it's an digital MGA solution, how are you talking to all those markets that this is a good solution to reach the brokers and have your products amplified and what you can do with it? So again, it's still very relationship driven and you can't move that fast. Relationship takes time to nurture. And that's what we try to communicate is we've been in the industry for, a long time. We can help identify where those conversations should be taking place. And more importantly, how they should be taking place, what the message is. It's not, again, I've got this great technology. It's, hey, agency owner, hey, insurer, hey, whoever it is, I know that this is a problem that you're facing. I'd love to be able to show you what we've been able to do, get your feedback, and maybe have you demo it and test it out to see if it really could be, something that fits your operational needs, your growth needs, whatever, insert whatever need that is. But I think a lot of technology companies just overlook the importance of relationships in insurance, again, across the entire distribution channel. It's not just client and broker, it's widespread.
That demo and testing part is hard though. Going back to the time piece,
Mhm.
agencies just don't have the ability to test and demo something that might not actually be a good solution for them. How do we overcome that part?
I think it's again having helping the agency owners and operators know the best questions to ask a technology company so they don't waste time.
And what would those be? What are some of the best questions to ask?
I think it's the same question. What problem is this going to solve for me? What am I going to get out of it? Is it going to be time savings? Is it going to be enhanced ability to scale? Is it going to be a better way for me to operationalize some of the manual tasks that I have or automate some of those manual tasks? I mean, every manual task costs dollars, right? So it's not replacing people. It's taking manual tasks away so they have a higher and best use of time
Hmm.
allocated to growing the business, servicing clients, whatever that is. So I think it's really just understand where your struggles are as an agency and be highly like be very honest with yourself. Hey, if we could automate direct bill or agency bill payments somehow, what would that do? What would that free up hours wise? How can I allocate that new time that I got back? What would that do for me operationally? And then go seek those out actively versus being passive and waiting for them to come to you. And I think in crowdsourcing too. Like who else has used this technology? What has been your experience? Do they sit down with you and help that integration process? What does that integration process look like? And be very direct with those technology companies because if it's, well, we give you a username and password and best wishes to you. I mean, that's a lot. And that's some of what we've advised the insurtech, the technology companies is you need an internal communication onboarding process that's, a year plus. You're holding their hand, you're dripping messages on of how to use it, best ways to get the maximum value out of it. And it's just that constant, again, communication, that constant relationship building. It's not a vendor relationship that you're going to set it and forget it. Even if you think your technology is that way, and even as an owner, I think identifying who in your organization can be a champion and say, maybe it's an account manager who's really good at pick whatever you're trying to solve, and they're going to own it and they're going to have full empowerment to go around the agency and say, you guys all need to log on and use this. I've been directed by, the principal to make this happen. And we're going to have training sessions. We're going to have lunch and learns. We're going to do all these things. It has to be this full court press or as we've said, it's just going to fall and they're going to spend a lot of money on something that just sits there like the fax machine. And just in case, we're going to keep it around, but it's not really doing anything. And it could be an incredibly powerful tool for the agency.
I think having that champion in the agency is huge. I don't think a lot of people consider that when implementing something because, if you have your coworker saying, "Hey, this product's really going to help us and this is what we're doing and this is why we're doing it," versus top down saying, "We're implementing this, you're going to do it regardless."
Hmm.
Just spinning the wording on that a little bit and it would get so much more buy-in from the rest of the agency and make them feel like they're part of the team and part of the process as
Right.
opposed to just being put on you. And also, I think that this is so important that we have connections in the insurance industry to be able to bounce these questions off of because if you ask, I've never seen a demo that I don't like. I love all demos. Demos are great, but that doesn't mean they're going to work for me. And if you say to them, "Hey, can you give me some names of agents that have used your product before?" Of course they're going to give us all-star agents that use the product and have, taken it and run with it. So it's great to have the connections in the industry where maybe somebody used the product and they said, yeah, it's great, but it wasn't a fit for me. And this is why. And, if you're similar, maybe then you realize quicker it's not a fit for me and you save a lot of time and money.
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing, and I don't even know if this is on topic or not, but one thing that I started thinking of is expense exhaustion. Is that another component that's going into this lack of ability or desire to adopt technology? It's like, okay, yes, I see how this can solve this for me. But the long term solution is I'm already paying X amount of dollars for the AMS system that I'm using and support and technology there. And then on top of, the human operation cost. And now I'm going to add this technology that operates outside of my AMS or integrates or, whatever. But then once I, settle on that resolving a solution, now the next issue is now taking priority because you say, or as you talked, you were like, identify what your trouble spots are. What is it you're trying to resolve? There's a lot of things that agencies are trying to resolve. So once you
Yep.
resolve one thing, well, then the next thing kind of rears its ugly head. And you're like, all right, now we got this under control. Let's get something else under control. And before you know it, you've got expense after expense after expense piling up. And you're like, okay, now what can I take back to start controlling some of those costs? I don't even know what my question is there.
No, it's a good question because that is, again, I think that's why people kind of get into this paralysis kind of posture is I know I need to do it, but it's really expensive. And if I solve that, then this is going to trip this to happen. And I need to solve that then. And that's probably going to be expensive. And then this and then that. So I'm just going to continue to use the paper and we're going to continue to bob along like we are. And we're just going to try to grow as best we can with what we have. And so I think it's just understanding as a leadership team, as that principal, what do you really want to accomplish and being very thoughtful and prescriptive about, if we're going to put our time and money into updating the AMS system, we're going to use some type of automation, again, having a trusted source, whether it's like an OIA organization or a different organization that you can kind of lean on to help vet those decisions. And I think, again, crowdsource, like, what did you learn? What was something that you wish you had known before you started this process? And I spoke to an agency not too long ago about, yeah, we updated, we use this AMS system and then we updated our phone system, but this phone system doesn't actually talk to our AMS system. And so it doesn't pop open, the customer file when they call. So theoretically, that was supposed to be a great integration and it doesn't talk to one another. And so that's, to your point, one thing pops up after you try to solve something else. So I think it's, do the technologies that you're considering actually speak to one another? Can they play nice in the sandbox? And is the value that you're going to experience enough to reinvest in what other thing could pop up from solving that problem? Again, does it free up manual task hours so that this next thing you can set your team to say, okay, this is what you're now going to be focused on because it's freeing up this time, but we really need to then focus on this. So I think it's just having that pretty well thought out timeline and strategic plan to understand the ripple effects of integrating a technology. And again, is it the best thing cost wise? If your data is not there, do you really need a snazzy automation system? Marketing automation, people talk about that. I want to do campaigns and I want to do account rounding and cross selling. Okay, but do you have email addresses? Well, no, I think so. Some of them actually may be dead. Some of them I think are wrong. So it's like, let's just start with an effort to have your team
So
scrub
we need an
data, correct
automation to
it.
check the obituaries, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, is that not a thing when you're not getting response from a client? Your first go to is like, I think I need to Google the obit.
Oh, my
real
uncle looked
quick.
at that every morning because then he would bring it in and put it on my desk if it was one of our clients and I had to send like a sympathy card to.
I mean, that's a great retention and it's not a bad idea, but I think, the point being is if you want to do all these technologies, like we said earlier, it's got to go back to the foundationally, like, are you ready for it? Or do you have a champion? Is your data ready to do that? And what other existing systems, legacy systems do you have that once you, swap out, what's that going to do to everything else? Do they all play
Mhm.
together, or are you going to put something new that now makes your phone system basically just a phone? And if that's what you're looking for, great. But if it's supposed to connect and do things with your AMS or other things that you have in place to manage clients, those are, again, the questions. And again, even talking, you get overwhelmed by, oh my gosh, like, I don't want to do any of this.
Yeah, I'm already overwhelmed and sitting here like this is where it sounds like agencies, rather than looking into technologies themselves, it looks like they need to add a technology officer that's capable of sitting in that space and having conversations. I don't know, maybe that's where Colleen fits
I mean, that's what we can help with. But at the same time,
in.
I think, again, just doing your research and trying to be a good steward of the business and not making that knee jerk, fear of missing out decision, which I've also seen is, well, everybody was jumping on and investing in this. I felt like I needed to too, because my competitors were doing it and they were going to take my clients. And,
Yeah, FOMO is.
there's all kinds of wonderful, great technology out there. Don't get me wrong. There's some really cool things that if you had an unlimited budget, you could go crazy spending all kinds of stuff and it would be phenomenal. Like, you would have like the NASA central control station for an agency, but it's like, what's realistic? What are you, again, go back to your goals as an organization. What are you trying to do? Is it expense management? Then look for things that fit into that box. Is it to grow? Then fit into those things that fit that box. And there's not to say that there's not going to be overlap, that you're going to have residual benefit that, maybe you're not focused on operational efficiencies, but you're still going to get that. So I think it's defining what your goals are, understanding those weak spots, understanding who needs to be the champion and where your current situation is, and then go out and start vetting technology companies and interview them. Like, that, don't be intimidated by what they have to offer, because again, that basic question, what problem are they trying to solve? And if it's not your problem and it still sounds really cool, but it's not your problem, move on. And it's great. That's wonderful. I'll keep you in mind. I'll refer you to other people who may have a benefit, but it's a pass for me. And that's I think, to your question, like, time wise, how do you manage all the demos that you could possibly have? Like, before you get to a demo, like, on the surface, is it answering those questions? Is it following where you need to be from an objective standpoint? If it does, then no, I don't have time for the demo. I don't.
Yeah.
And it's okay to say no.
Let's flip scripts for just a minute. We still want to get to the leadership OIA and your experience there, but you are also working in a capacity to develop and grow a technology focused aggregator in essence.
Mhm.
Let's talk about that for a second, especially in the market that we're in, where it's so hard and so defeating at the moment. I think it's like every morning we wake up and we hear about another carrier that's pulling out of a major market, or was it California, a major carrier pulling out of homeowners, and not too recently Progressive in North Carolina, and I think some other states deciding that they no longer want to write auto policies without prior insurance, which I know for one, that's a huge business killer in terms
Yeah.
of like that was the market you would go to if you had a new teen or a new driver or whatever. And I think
Mhm.
that's a side note, that's a whole nother reality too, because a lot of Gen Zers, they're not getting driver's licenses right away like we did as millennials because we could not wait to get in a car and get out of our parents' house,
Can't
right?
understand that. I really don't understand
They're 20 and
that.
30-year-olds who have never taken a driver's test before, so they don't have insurance. And now they're doing it for the first time. Maybe they lived in an inner city and they didn't have a need for that type of insurance, if you will. And maybe now they've moved into a more rural area where they need a car to get around and whatever. And so they're doing it for the first time, and that market just completely got swept out from underneath their feet, right? So, talk to us about the importance of what you're trying to do with this tech focused, and correct any language that I use, but a tech focused aggregator, and where that could really benefit agents in this market.
Yeah, it's on a few different fronts. It's the market front, having kind of this pool or this platform where everybody has, that rising tides raise all ships. Everybody is able to access something because you have that power in numbers, where you may have been a smaller regional, Main Street agency, that you don't have the clout to go to some of these carriers that have wielded their their power and say, no, we're not writing there. And going back to the conversation earlier, other agencies have these strong relationships that you can now tap into because you're part of this network. You're all in the family, and saying, okay, I have this agency that is part of our ecosystem that really needs to write here, and that has dried up for them. Are you able to help? It's just making those connections again, and helping build those resources in where agencies may have not been able to access them before. And it's going to, our conversation just now of how do you have the capacity and the capital to go after technology solutions. And so that's another benefit of being part of a platform is, again, all those back office resources or tasks that you need to handle go away, because that's kind of done at the home office or corporate level, because again, operational efficiencies, we're going to pull those back, and now you get to go run your business, and then you're also not paying for all the technology that has to go in to running it. You just get access to it.
Mm.
Granted, you may not get final say in which ones are selected, but you obviously have a voice, because you're not going to select technology that your ecosystem, your network is not going to use. So it's the
Yeah.
same principles, but that scaling benefit of everybody having access, it's not coming off of your P&L, and just having that access to markets that maybe as a smaller agency or wherever you are regionally, you wouldn't have access to before. It's that power in numbers that can really be a benefit to certain agencies who have kind of hit that ceiling and are going, we know we can get there if we had more capital, we had more time, we had more resources, we have the team, we have the relationships, we have the skills. We can't get there because of these things. I think a platform helps alleviate that and opens that ceiling up so they can go way beyond their high watermark as far as growth.
Keep them from jumping ship. I'll just keep going with this
I
analogy.
was gonna say there's so many puns that were running through my head. So I think before we wrap this up, we're gonna bring this back with your rising tides raise all ships. Got it right. There we go. Speaking of that and having power in numbers, you just attended our inaugural women's leadership event that OIA put on, which cracked
Yeah.
me up when I called you and you said you were in Texas. I'm like, oh, she must be traveling back from somewhere. Didn't realize that you lived in Texas. And I'm like, wow, somebody's coming from Texas to come to our event, which was awesome. But do you have any thoughts that you want to share on that? Because I know Dustyne had mentioned you had some thoughts yesterday, good, bad, or indifferent.
Oh yeah, we've got lots of thoughts on that. Again, probably its own episode or series in itself. But first off, I'm originally from Ohio, so being able to focus our efforts back in Ohio has been, wonderful, and reconnecting with OIA has been great. And I was so excited that you guys were putting on this retreat, because I think it is important, and being able to be in that room and see so many women who were there to support one another. And, as you said, it's like, this is a safe space to share things, because there are a lot of topics that, can be very difficult to talk through, especially in a professional setting where you automatically get judged and it sets you back. And so I think it was great to have that opportunity to share amongst women, because as we spoke yesterday, in my experience, a, a lot of the challenges and maybe kind of being shoved down or looked over for things has come from, unfortunately, women who have been in more powerful positions than me. Not to say that men haven't, had their fair share of, things that they have maybe not done well for me in my career, but a lot of times it's women who are not interested in turning around and pulling everybody forward. They want to be on their platform. They got there, and they're really comfortable and want to be in that leadership or position of power. And they're not interested in sharing the platform or spotlight with anybody else, which I think is really unfortunate. So I think it's critically important to have those types of events that remind us that we're not in competition with one another. We are there to advance what we're all doing, no matter what your professional goals are. Maybe you're looking to be a CEO, or maybe you're just looking to provide for your family. It's all good. No one's better than the other. And I think that sometimes as women, that especially in insurance and professional, like you just lose sight of that, and your own insecurities can kind of manifest, and you turn into that mean girl. And it's just, we don't have time for that. Going back to time, like we don't have time for us to cut each other down. We've got enough going after us as it is. Let's cut that nonsense out.
What I will say is you're, well, both lucky and I guess not lucky because it was a really great session, but you missed all of the ugly crying in the afternoon. So, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I love your sentiments and what you just expressed. And in terms of the advancement piece, I think that's one of the things that I've struggled with the most in terms of what, would project as holding me back is the misperception that it's the title or the compensation is what
Mhm.
you're in pursuit of. When I don't think that has ever been it for me. It has always been what's going to keep me challenged and engaged and what feels the best and most exciting. And
Mhm.
where employers have held back is making that an assumption that it is the title is your growth path. Like
Right.
here's your projection to CEO. I don't want to be a CEO. I don't want to make decisions. I
Mhm.
want to have fun. You can't have fun making decisions and babysitting others, right? Like I don't
Right.
want to do that. It's always been what's fun and exciting. And I think you expressed that very well in your spiel just then. So thank you so much, Colleen, for being here today and kind of helping us understand where the boat is being missed. I did not mean to do that. Where tech is missing the boat with agents and where agents might not yet be ready to board the boat of technology. I think those conversations are going to have to start happening a lot in the next, I don't know, 5 years or so because the technology is there and it's
Mhm.
evolving. But if it's not being adopted, then what are we even developing it for, kind of thing? So thanks so much for being on Awkward Insurance today. We've really appreciated having you here.
Thank you, ladies, so much. This has been so much fun and really enjoyed the conversation.
Toodles, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for hanging out and listening to another Awkward Insurance Conversation.
If you haven't already, be sure to join the Awkward Insurance Facebook community. We have an amazing group of people on there.
And for more episodes, head over to the National Alliance website at scic.com. Now go forth and be awkward. Toodles!
That's awkward.